Lugging around equipment while trying to be quiet about it quickly gets Devin sweating through his shirt, and he has to take it off. He's making the extra effort not to disturb the coyote because Cameron seems to be really trying, his eyes closed and ears up. Dev didn't even need to ask him to take out his phone so he could record audio. He just did it, and to Devin, that just proved how much Cameron wanted to do this. As Dev goes about testing his equipment, Cameron shifts and mumbles something. Dev perks up. There we go.
Yep, that's the stuff.
We need to get extra sexy for the ghosts, because that's the part of the horror genre. That's what summons
that's how
the
you get them to
spirits.
come out.
Yeah. Come out.
Literally.
Yes. The ghost just appears. I'm gay.
It's been a very long time, and I think things are finally coming to make sense to me now.
Yeah. I just realized just now, a little late, but... Hey, hon. I'm right here. You alright?
I need to get more comfortable.
At the same time, he adjusts himself so that his feet are on the suitcase in front of him. Okay. Something about Cameron's demeanor is bothering Dev. And Cameron's words are a little slurred. He does seem kind of not quite there. Should he pull him out of it? Devin had never seen a psychic in action before, so maybe this is normal, like a trance. Devin, I cannot stress enough that you're making this up.
Yeah.
You just told your boyfriend to like meditate for like 3 hours, so he's just falling asleep.
Yep.
He hopes it's normal, because even if Devin can find his answers, he'd give them up for Cameron to discover he isn't psychotic. As he's fiddling with his EMF sensor, dread suddenly clutches at his chest. What if the opposite happened, and Cam really did lose his mind? Like when his mom got psychosis. If that happens, Devin is only now realizing that he would be responsible. And how could Cameron forgive him for that? How could he forgive himself? Shit. Dev hisses under his breath. What the fuck is he doing? Bringing his boyfriend to this room where that happened. He was usually alone or with friends when doing these investigations, and his want to see something always overpowered that fear. He just assumed Cam would be used to scary shit, especially after describing that flat-faced creature in a raincoat that he'd been seeing since he was a kid. Is it a human?
That's what I was thinking.
Does he imagine a human and doesn't know how to describe it? It's some kind of flat creature, the most terrifying thing of all. Except canonically, flesh affinity exists in this universe, so...
Yeah, flesh affinity does exist.
Because Carl's a reverse furry, so... He just assumed.
I keep forgetting about that.
Yeah, crank powered.
Carl's affinity. Weird kink is that he likes actual anime girls, like human anime girls.
The worst thing he could be when his big titty, giant dick goth girlfriend was also human.
Oh no, it's far too fetish material.
He just assumed. Why was it only now that he was realizing what the consequences could be? The feeling he'd had earlier about being a social dumbass comes back, but far stronger. This isn't something a loving partner does to another partner.
Oh, it's good that he's finally noticing this far after he should have just turned around.
Why? Leave. Leave. Like, is he getting echoed right now? Like, wow, he's so conscious of the mistakes that I'm like, why are you still going? He's fucking using Cameron for his own selfish reasons. Devin knows that the coyote has some kind of ESP abilities, but no, he don't. You don't know that.
No, he doesn't know that at all.
You extremely don't know that, but it's good to know that he's that delusional. But that didn't mean he didn't also have the other issues that could fuck him up. That didn't mean that possibly seeing these awful things wouldn't cause him to develop more issues. Devin gets up and paces for a bit, beginning to make up his mind, deciding that right after this, they're done, no matter what. The bear looks at the closet, the one where a wolf from Maseta tribal council hung himself in the early 90s. Oh, wait, the early 90s.
As in 1990?
Yeah. No, well, it's no. It was, well, I was thinking of the lynching for a second there, and I'm like, one, he didn't hang himself, and two, it wasn't in the 90s.
Very, very different time period, yes.
Hundreds of years ago. If only he could see one thing, just one sliver of proof that she's okay on the other side, he'd be at peace with all this. I mean, just proof of the afterlife is not proof of peace. You might get
not.
proof of much worse things.
Well, what if it's just like, oh, the afterlife does exist. It's only hell.
Yeah, bad news. It's the amalgam.
Yeah, it's the bad place. That's all there is. There's no good place. It's just the bad place.
There is no the good place. Dev lets out a shuddering sigh, standing in the closet, looking at that bar, wondering if it's the same one that the wolf used. Fucking,
probably not.
Haunting of Hill House has like one of the most horrifying interpretations of the afterlife that I've ever seen.
Oh yeah,
it's genuinely distressing. I'm
really
like, I have
terrible stuff.
I have so many bad news about how many versions of the afterlife we could make up here that aren't the good one that you're imagining with, I don't know, clouds and nothing happens. I guess if you read through like Dante's Paradiso or whatever, there's like more elaborate stuff about heaven. But it is funny to me that my entire mental image that I've been served up by media about heaven and hell is that hell is a place where infinite different horrors that are really interesting happen, and heaven is clouds.
Yeah, it's like clouds and like a blue sky, and it's always kind of bright out.
Heaven is just like a fucking Windows 95 screensaver and nothing happens.
Yeah.
Which sounds like hell, honestly.
Yeah. Oh man, it's just infinite contentment in a place that just looks exactly the same. Looks like a Windows 95 start screen.
Devin feels something. Not a good something. A chill runs up his spine, and suddenly he's shivering.
It's cold out. It's very cold because he took off his shirt.
Yeah.
We're in a desert and it's cold.
He's having an extrasensory experience of being shirtless at night.
That's why taking the shirt off is really important when you need to sense ghosts.
It's just such a grim thought that the idea that it'd be the same bar he used to hang himself. But I'm like, Devin, that was 30 years ago.
Yeah, that was
they probably replaced
more than
the
30
bar
years ago.
When it happened. But even if they didn't, it was 30 years ago. I know this is a rundown motel, but damn.
They were in some really dire straits. They had to pull the bar off, and they kept using it afterward. They needed to keep it there to save costs.
No way. It's actually happening. Holy shit. It's all I can manage to say. It's happening. But it feels so wrong. Then a fear that he's never known before takes over. He wants to turn around. He wants to call out to Cameron, but it's like something is around his neck, holding him in place. And then he hears a terrible sound behind him. Cameron knows something is happening for sure. And then he wakes up.
And it's just Cameron snoring.
Yeah. It's scary, but at the same time, it's making him question what he's always believed. Had Devin been right about this stuff? Had he just misunderstood himself for so long? Wait, hang on a minute. Yeah, this was Devin's perspective. Okay, I'm like double checking. Like the person freaking out was Devin, which is, yeah. But now we're in like Cameron's perspective more. So he also thinks something's happening. And he just misunderstood himself for so long? He could sense someone. Nothing like the monsters he'd seen in the past. Instead, this was a man in a suit with a bolo tie. He was sad. He was angry. And he was terrified. Cameron knew this was often what psychics described when talking about sensing people from the past. You feel their most intense moment in life. This man, this wolf. He's going to do something terrible. And while Cameron is marveling over this, the wolf suddenly changes. At the same time, Cameron feels his focus turn to him. This gives the coyote pause, because now the presence was trying to interact with him. Was this right? Cameron thinks it could be, but something doesn't feel right about it. Like this isn't what he thinks it is. But he supposes that anyone doing this for the first time would feel it to be strange. Maybe he was doing the light sensing wrong. The point is to listen to the past, like a recording. This direct communication is scaring the coyote, but this could be his chance to answer Dev's question. And his own question, for that matter. Isn't the Meseta tribe fennec foxes?
I don't think they're one species, but Jenna's family are fennec foxes. Are they fennecs? I think they might just be foxes. They might be desert foxes.
Desert foxes, yeah. But like, it's just I think the only Meseta characters I know about are Jenna and Keith, and they're both foxes.
Yep.
So I thought it was specific. Like, I thought there was like a racial makeup there. So when it was coyote, I'm like, is he wrong about what he's saying?
But I think Keith is a different kind of fox than Jenna even. So
I don't know. They're both just like tan.
Yeah.
Neither of them are like an orange fox or anything.
Yeah. All right. I think this is me. I'm sorry to bother you. What's after death? Where do we go?
It feels stupid and clumsy, but it's all that comes to his mind. So Cameron asks it over and over. There's a long, empty pause. Hello. How you doing? That's a sound that played an echo.
Yeah.
That's the same one. And then something like a cackle. It sounds almost fake, like a Halloween toy, but it's dark, mean, and it's making fun of him. It's Shinji from Paradise Killer.
And then we hear an explosion and a bunch of middle fingers all over the screen.
It's just a tile mosaic of middle fingers. All the feelings of wonder and hope for breakthrough are deflated instantly. He needs Dev. He needs to open his eyes.
This
Cameron's
is kind of what it
eyes.
looks like to have sleep paralysis. Like this, this is what it looks like.
Just a void for it to be filled with interpretation.
Yeah, well, I mean, like the color banding and the gradient and the fuzziness, that's really what it looks like.
Cameron's eyes are heavy, and he can barely focus. Something has gone terribly wrong. This presence is evil, malicious. This isn't a person. Now, all the coyote can sense is that a profound tragedy has just taken place. He needs Devin, and he thinks he sees him as his vision begins to slowly focus. Oh. Well.
Spooky.
That's quite the thing to wake up to, yeah. Like, the implication would be that Devin was possessed and then hung himself the same way.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if this is not real, or if he's about to react and save him, or what's going on here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have a few options. I mean, this is jumping immediately off the deep end. I was expecting more teasing before we got to anything even remotely actually supernatural. So, I mean, if
anyone ever thought that Echo had a slow burn buildup, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we're not even out of the first chapter yet, and we're here. Like, that's pretty intense.
At first, Cameron doesn't understand what he's seeing. How is Dev standing like that? Why isn't he moving? He realizes why over the next few seconds. The unnatural way Dev's weight seems to pull up at his neck says it all. Cameron starts screaming, but it's weak, muffled, barely a wheeze from his throat, and he can't move. Oh, so he is successfully sensing what happened, basically.
Yes.
Without being told about it.
And I think he gets there through his sleep paralysis because he can't move and he can't scream. This is describing what sleep paralysis is like.
Yeah, which is the worst way to have to experience this.
Yes, 100%. That is a very real nightmare.
Is the idea that your sleep paralysis is actually real on some level, like the things you're experiencing, and you're just forced to watch. Paralysis. This isn't real. Okay, well, he's on the same page 1 second later.
Yep, okay, good.
This is sleep paralysis. But something about this is so fucked, so real. And he couldn't have fallen asleep. He was almost positive about that. I wouldn't be that confident about that ever.
Yeah. Also, that's kind of how sleep paralysis works. Is that like it can happen quickly. Like I will be awake one moment and be like, all right, I am gonna roll over onto my side and like I don't know, close my eyes for half a second, and then like literally the moment I shut my eyes, I'm in sleep paralysis and I can't get up.
Yeah. Or like when Chase swims to the bottom of the lake.
Yep.
I think you had a story that was like you were just hanging out at like a party where everyone was playing video games or something, and you were like just laying down on the couch, and then you were just stuck listening to them, unable to move for like half an hour or something. Yep,
that is exactly what happened. They weren't playing video games; they were playing Magic the Gathering while the TV was on. But I was just laying on the couch, and my eyes were open, and I could kind of partially see them. Again, it was really blurry, and everything sounds like you're underwater during that, so I couldn't really make out what people were saying, but I was just sitting there just like watching them play Magic the Gathering, and I probably couldn't replay details because time is really weird when you're in sleep paralysis. It's genuinely difficult to keep a coherent thought. But when I woke up, I was like, "Whoa, how long was I out?" And they were like, "You were on the couch for 5 minutes." Like it was not a long period of time. So that's just kind of how it happens. You just slip into it immediately when your brain kind of slows down for a little bit. It slows down too quickly and you aren't asleep when it starts sending your brain like sleep waves or whatever. I don't know the science behind it. I just know that's kind of how it works.
But even if he had, his boyfriend could actually be hanging himself while the coyote sits uselessly on the couch. Terror begins to engulf him. How could this happen? How could he do this?
That would wake me up immediately.
Also like, what? What? How do you even interpret? I'm just thinking, like, how do you interpret this moment? What is he called? I'm guessing he's gonna he's gonna like try to answer it, and he'll like hear the real Dev or something. But I'm just like, I'm just determining, like, did Dev just try to call him on the phone in real life? Like, it can't be the best way to wake him up. But this is a fucked up visual.
Yeah.
Like this juxtaposition is actually brutal.
Yeah, that's genuinely uncomfortable.
How?
They had to make sure they got the bulge in the shot though. Sorry, I shouldn't break the tension during such a dark moment.
We can all just die sexily. Check out this back crevice.
Die sexy in Echo. That's their Taurus motto.
Just neon demon mode. Just be a beautiful corpse. Cameron tries screaming again, but again, it's just a wheeze of breath. He stares at Devin's constant contact image instead of He stares at Devin's contact image instead of Devin dead in the closet. They took that picture in college 5 years ago, and just a month into their relationship. So he definitely has an eyebrow scar.
Yeah.
At the time, it was a token to show his other gay friends, to prove he had a boyfriend, and that he was a handsome bear. And he'd never changed it, even though he had no one to show off to anymore. How the hell did they end up here? The phone picks up and switches to speaker automatically.
That's not how phones work. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but it's a dream phone.
It's not how it works. This is a dream phone. My immersion is completely broken.
Your immersion in the dream is broken.
Yep.
Your immersion in the dream where the guy in the dream also knows it's a dream and has his immersion broken is broken. Cameron knows deep down that this must be a dream, but Devin is still hanging in the closet. He's overcome by the horror that this could just be a partial dream, and that the worst part of it is real. It makes Cameron try and fail to scream again. Ooh, the ghost.
You want to know, like?
Cameron stares at the phone, unable to understand through the static, but able to recognize the voice. You said you wanted to know what, like to die? I'd say it's like drowning forever. Conscious forever, while you suffocate for what made you happy when you were alive. Then again, you don't believe in anything. So what you really want to know is what it's like to disappear. Because you're scared. You tell yourself you want to die. That you wish your mom didn't save your worthless life. That you deserve it. Now you tell yourself that if it weren't for me, you'd have ended things back in college. We both know that's a lie, because you're a fucking coward. You'll stay alive as long as you can be with someone who can keep you alive. I could have treated you like absolute shit the past 5 years and you'd still be around today. You fucking begged Dylan not to leave you, just weeks after he punched you and gave you that scar. The one you said you got from falling against a cabinet. You're sick. Meanwhile, you let me put you in this situation. You said you wanted it. Do you still want it?
No, please, God, no.
Cameron can't even move his lips. Anyway, I'm getting a little off topic, aren't I? You wanted to know what the afterlife is like. I'll give you an idea. Devin's voice becomes more muffled. Yo, Lupita, tell my boyfriend what it's like. It's quiet for a moment, and Cameron just sits in stunned misery, just waiting. A terrible, demonic scream screeches through the phone, and Cameron's fur bristles all over his body, and he fights this prison that he's in with everything he has. And finally breaks free.
So hearing screaming isn't a common precursor to sleep paralysis for a lot of people. It ties in with a thing called exploding head syndrome, which is like, people don't really know exactly what it is, but it's the auditory hallucination or perception that loud noises are happening as you're trying to fall asleep. Very, very commonly linked. I get like basically that exact scream before I get sleep paralysis, like pretty consistently.
So do you think Hallie just has sleep paralysis? Like, this is getting too specific at this point?
I mean, it reads, if he doesn't have it or hasn't experienced it before, it's definitely something that he's talked to people about. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's because it seems so specific. The other reaction to each thing, basically. There's something very funny about us immediately responding to some of these things in in skeptic mode, like, and here's the scientific explanation for the thing that we just experienced in the story that both of us know is a ghost story.
Yes, exactly. we are
played Echo before.
I'm not sitting here trying to debunk this. I am fully here for it to go full on ghosts. Okay, like, I'm here for it. I'm giving my lived experience. All right.
There's so much authentic counterpoint to everything because it's like written that way. But it just makes it funnier.
It's very easy to toy with the expectation too and play into it like that. But I think that the authenticity lends something to it. It's kind of it rings a little bit truer, and I think that's something that's one of Echo's strengths as well. Is that like a lot of the horror of it is also kind of aided by the horror of the very real situations that are depicted in it. So the fact that they're able to marry that with the horror narration, I think, goes a long way to making it feel a little bit more real and impactful.
It takes Devin a moment to realize the terrible sound is coming from Cameron. He's never heard him make a sound like that before. At that moment, whatever it is that has a hold of the bear, dissolves, and Devin turns around, heaving for breath. When Devin looks at him, he sees Cameron's eyes are wide open. Cameron? Cameron makes that sound again. Though Devin has no idea.
Ooh woo. Ooh woo. Big shirtless bear boyfriend. Ooh woo.
He's never made that sound before.
Cameron, what's wrong?
He's possessed by Tumblr. Though Devin has no idea what Cameron's seeing, he knows that it's something terrible. Devin feels himself beginning to panic. Baby, please, what's happening? Cameron just stares back, and Devin finally snaps. Cameron! Devin is stepping out of the closet when suddenly Cameron lunges off the couch, making a feral sound. He was in the closet.
Oh, whoa.
So he did see him in the closet with his back, and the shirt was off and everything. The look in the coyote's eyes is so intensely unlike him that Devin draws back in fear. Honey, it's me. To Dev's shock, Cameron's paws fly to the bear's neck, but instead of squeezing like he thinks he's going to do, they rip at the thick fur there. Wait! Stop! Devin manages to catch Cameron's paws in his own, much larger paws, easily restraining the smaller male. Cameron continues to stare at Devin's neck, seeming to search intently. Then he looks up at Dev's face.
I saw you dead. You called me and screamed at me.
Though Devin doesn't understand, he can tell this wasn't one of Cameron's typical night terrors. The look on his face says it all. Fuck! I'm really sorry. I'm driving you to Peyton right now, or wherever the hell you want to go. But as Devin tries to pull him to the door, Cameron resists.
Wait. Just let me catch my breath, okay?
Okay. Just take deep breaths, okay? Devin fumbles with the lantern until he turns it on. Then he stands next to Cameron for a few moments, listening to him sob. Can I at least hold you? Please? Cameron leans towards him as an answer. While Dev strokes his head, Cameron starts to rub his back, like he knows that Dev had been terrified too.
I'm fine. It was just really intense. Vision.
I'm so sorry. I've never seen you like that before. You scared the absolute shit out of me. Did you think I was attacking you?
Huh?
You were going after my neck. Sort of.
Oh, no, I saw you hanging in the closet.
Cameron's breath hitches in his chest.
Like from your neck.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, and it was so fucking real.
They hold each other in silence for a while, Devin mulling over what Cameron just told him. Devin no longer has doubts that Cameron is psychic, but right now that doesn't matter. He just wants the coyote to feel safe again.
Devin?
Yeah, honey?
I think you're right.
What about?
Something happened. I don't know if it's ghosts or whatever the hell else that could have been, but that wasn't just me. I've never felt or seen things like that before. There's more to this than me being crazy. There has to be.
We can talk about this when we're in Peyton, okay?
Hate the smug look he's giving him right now. Really don't like how self-satisfied that is. Dev, I promise to be honest with you, and I need to tell you something now, otherwise I probably never will.
What is it? Dev's heart starts to pound as he sees the look on Cameron's face.
Lupita was in this vision, Dev. But please believe me when I say that I don't think it was really her. But...
What? Cameron hesitates. Cameron, please tell me.
I'm really sorry, but I heard her, and it was awful, and... I don't know, it was just a scream. It was horrible.
The floor seems to fall out from under Devin, and he feels like he's falling into an abyss.
Next time you should take off his pants and maybe the ghost hunting will go better.
God, dude.
Sorry. I didn't mean to ruin the moment like that. It was on the tip of my tongue the whole time. He just took off the wrong pair of clothing.
We primed them for the idea that they would have the worst news. Like, oh yeah, you want evidence of the afterlife? What if it's not fucking good news? What if there's only bad news about what happens after? But then we even got more bad. The thing about it, the question about the demon thing, the ghost, is that like it's not speaking as much as they're convinced that it's real.
Yeah.
There's still an explanation for all of this. Because of the
Definitely.
fact, the fact that Devin walked into the spot because he was, he's in a place where he wants to believe. He's extremely motivated to believe because of Lupita.
Yeah.
And so, under the power of suggestion, he gets, enthralled on the idea of, what he already knows, which is that somebody hung themselves in that closet. So he walked into the closet and was zoning out or thinking about that and so on in this place where he wants to believe ghosts are real. And then his boyfriend that has sleep paralysis sees him in the closet and gets
pareidolia basically.
Yeah, what essentially happened here, potentially, is that their cold reading was a hot reading, and that Devin essentially slipped him the answers without knowing
primed him the answers. Yeah.
Meanwhile, the entire narration, everything that Devin said in that vision was completely devoid of insight for Cameron learned nothing. We learned a lot about Cameron because of that monologue, but none of it is actually new information for Cameron. It's just all of his greatest fears and insecurities being said back to him by his dead boyfriend. And
a pretty solid reason why I think that there's I think that there's obviously, we mentioned this, we've played Echo, we know there is a supernatural at play, but there's an interesting way to read this, which is just that when you have sleep paralysis and there's a coat on the coat rack on the other side of the room, it looks like a person in the dark, and it's so he's staring at his boyfriend blurry from behind in a closet where he knows something terrible has happened. They never talk. He wasn't I saw the ghost of a wolf who was a tribesman wearing a bolo tie who died. We know each one of the characters had those individual visions or whatever. At least Devin did, and then seemingly that same wolf is who he was sensing, or Cameron was sensing. But when we actually see it play out, it's as you said, Cameron is just viewing his own worst fears. And obviously Cameron knows there's something with this Lupita character we haven't actually been introduced to yet. And it's not too hard to jump from one conclusion to the next there. And this is what I meant by when stuff starts to hit the fan, there will be no baseline, because we have an uber believer and a skeptic, but the skeptic is literally canonically mentally ill and knows it.
And it keeps getting worse. They're a recovering drug addict, and they have sleep paralysis, and they're an abuse victim now. The number of separate things happening that are stacked, and then we're bringing them into the situation. The fucking genius thing would be to go through this whole fucking thing and nothing supernatural happens in the game. Which,
Oh, completely.
especially since we're primed to think it's echo, like the idea that it's like, no, there just isn't a hysteria right now. There's no element here. It's just these two people, like they're basically just enabling each other and making horrible choices, and just like because I actually went through that scene thinking, oh, okay, yeah, this is just real. Like, this is it's too viscerally believable in the moment that you're like, oh, okay, so this is just the thing that I inevitably expected to happen in the Echo game to happen is happening. But then the moment we got in the car, I'm like, wait a minute, I can explain everything.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, I mean, it's interesting too, because I think that this is like a Howley thing, but like a big theme in Adastra is like characters not communicating effectively with each other.
Yeah.
The same thing is true in Echo. Like, characters just do not effectively communicate. And this is a really good kind of evolution of that, where characters are communicating with each other, but they're communicating the wrong things and not actually speaking their true intentions and fears and desires. So they're convincing themselves that they're communicating effectively, even though they're not. And they're getting confirmation bias as a result of that.
They're both saying just enough to confirm what the other wants to think, essentially. Yeah. And just a bit more exhaustive comparison of notes might just like make the whole house of cards collapse.
Yeah.
And on some level,
no,
like,
completely.
We're probably learning on some levels that Cameron wants to believe that his condition has a purpose, because that gives his life more sense, essentially, even though that's not like a mission he came in going for. That's like a seductive idea, is when you have something that's just a problem for you throughout life. Like, the idea that there's some kind of like reason for it is up there with the exact, like, that's literally the same mentality that comes with wanting to believe in the afterlife, is this idea that everything has a purpose and things happen for a reason, and something is overall being controlled in some way and not just cosmic pointlessness.
Yeah.
Where some people just are abused, and some people just have mental illness, and some people are born to die young, and so on.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because Cameron is a character that says like, oh, I am nihilistic, like even optimistically nihilistic, like that's fine, I'm an absurdist. The world doesn't have any meaning unless we ascribe it to it. But then at the same time, the very first opportunity he gets to find an answer, he's like, oh God, please give me an answer and tell me that I'm not crazy.
Oh yeah.
And like, that's like an addiction backslide right there. Like,
but there's also like an honesty there, just to the idea that like atheists aren't like, and that's great necessarily, when they're like, life's pointless.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly.
Like, nobody is like, oh man, I mean, there's definitely like the everything everywhere all at once approach, that where the pointlessness is freeing, or even that fucking Awu comic, like, oh yeah, nothing has a purpose, it's great, is definitely, it can be a freeing thing, but there's definitely like there's a huge percentage of people potentially that like believe in nothing but aren't like psyched about that news. Like, it's like, even when he goes in as the skeptic, like, it can be very easy to convince somebody if what you're promising is better news. Yeah.
Well, no, exactly, right? And it's like, but the thing that I was kind of trying to get at there with the addiction thing is that there were clearly points when Cameron has struggled with this in the past, where he's like, I've been telling myself my whole life it isn't real. But that also, like, saying that kind of implies, without saying, that he has also toyed with the idea that it isn't real. Like, there was that possibility to bounce off of. And so him immediately latching onto it is like, oh no, is he going to fall into an old habit and like is that nectar, that idea that it could possibly be real, despite how bad it is for him to believe that, going to lure him deeper into psychosis, which, as we have already established, is actually something that has run in his family at this point.
I'm simultaneously blown away by two things. Like, one, these CGs are great and shockingly frequent so far.
Yeah,
but two,
they are
like,
very good so far.
But two, like, the idea, like, like our double interpreted scene there, like that had to be written intentionally for that. Like Howley, I don't think Howley accidentally planted all the seeds for that to be completely like for all the plausible deniability that we're latching onto for the hanging scene, even though none of it's been called out, at least yet. And they seem so ready to believe it, but I'm like, it's so perfectly set up for you to deconstruct it under sleep paralysis that I'm like, that has to be completely on purpose.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, it definitely feels to me. I don't know if he's going to do anything with that, or if the story is going to get to a point where that pays off. But I do know that it has very effectively made the stakes and the reality of the situation feel very real.
Oh yeah,
which is cool.
I'm excited.
That's effective. Same. Yeah, I'm enjoying this quite a bit. It's very interesting.